welcome to the IncGamers Podcast. My name is Peter Parrish. I'm here with two other podcast people. They are Paul Younger. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Tim McDonald. Hello.
Hello.
News. Actually, I've just noticed the top you're wearing, Paul. It's sort of some kind of inferior football team.
Oh, no.
Don't know who they are. No one who's going to be at the World Cup, though, that's for sure.
Shut it. So I think we were at the World Cup in about 92 or something ridiculous like that. Even if I don't even know if there was a World Cup and whatever that was.
I've seen Scotland at a World Cup in living memory. Maybe 98 or something like that. Anyway, this isn't a football podcast, and EA have shunned the PC for their World Cup 2014 games, so probably shouldn't mention that anymore. Instead, let's go down the beautiful leafy grotto and through the jungle to Dota 2 Corner. Tim, some year beast thing was unleashed upon the world. I think between the last podcast and this one. How did that pan out?
Quite badly, because they didn't think it through.
I noticed it was only there for like 24 hours or something, which seemed weird.
They were running it in cycles. It was there for 24 hours, and then it wasn't, and then it was there for another 24 hours, and then I think it's on holiday again at the moment. It's probably back tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't really think it through insofar as there were a couple of things that they did with it. One of them is it's an endless fight, or at least it is up until I think 25 minutes, and you have to inflict as much damage as you can in that time. And anyone who gets in sort of the 10% highest damage gets a very special courier, and anyone who gets in the 1% highest damage gets an even more special courier. Unfortunately, they kind of discovered that actually a few of the heroes are capable of utterly destroying it with no challenge whatsoever. So about halfway through the first day, they decided to change the rules a little bit and changed how certain abilities worked on it. So that didn't go too well. They also kind of discovered that one of the things, if you do a certain amount of damage, you get things called Jade tokens. You can exchange Jade tokens for free cosmetic goodies. Fortunately, they failed to notice that it's very, very easy to get the absolute bare minimum of damage to get Jade tokens. So what people were doing was just doing said bare minimum of damage and then suiciding and just repeating this every 5 minutes to rack up a ridiculous amount of Jade tokens, which kind of broke the economy on the new items slightly. Which obviously they aren't happy about because they get all their money from hats.
So
they didn't really think it through, you might say.
Yeah, I find it interesting as well that the players, a lot of them, they weren't playing it for the gameplay sort of experience of that. They were just going, I can get some freebie cosmetic items out of this.
Yeah, and then you can sell them on the Steam marketplace.
Oh, true. Of course, real money. So
yeah.
I see that point now. That is more interesting than I'd given it credit for.
Don't get me wrong, you will earn less doing this than you will from pretty much any other job except for this one. So
the lowest paid job ever.
But they didn't quite think this through. I think they actually changed it again. That one of the things with the suicide runs, you have to use other tokens that you get from playing sort of the basic game mode to buy special equipment that makes the fight a bit easier.
Okay.
And I think they changed it so that now you lose all of those tokens after you fight it, whereas before you just kept any of the ones that you saved, so you could go and spend, you probably got about 20,000 of them. You can go and spend 50 to get one item for the fight for a suicide run. And then you can do it again. And so I think, I hadn't tried it since I heard this, but someone told me that they changed it so that you lose all of your tokens after each fight. So you're kind of supposed to use all of them in each battle. But yeah, they kind of didn't really think this one through. Also, it appears.
That's I really dislike that model in games where it's like, buy this this gun or this sword, you can use it once. That's it. Then it's gone.
Yeah.
quite annoying and quite off-putting.
Everything else about the patch, everything else they added, I quite like. You know, the new heroes, the patch fixes. There's a lot of decent stuff in there, and then there is a ton of stuff that is just really hideously broken, and this event itself is one of them.
Do you think this is a feature?
Because the past events, sort of Dietide, Frostivus, they were different, but they were at least, you know, they were reasonably enjoyable. Whereas this is kind of just a bit of a really boring chore.
You were asking something, Paul?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was a special design feature of Valve for all their games. Well, Dota 2 specifically, as we'll announce something, launch it, break it, pull it off, put it back on.
Isn't that basically what Valve do with everything?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that pretty much describes Steam and all of the new features that they release for that.
Everything's very organic and evolving.
Yeah, they announce something, and then 5 or 6 years after they announce it, they give a release date, and then a few years after that release date has passed, they give another release date, and then you might see something eventually, which will quite possibly have a lot of bugs, or just won't really work as intended, and then they might fix it a few years after that. That's kind of the Valve modus operandi, as far as I can tell.
I know what it is. Valve is continuously in early access.
Gabe Newell is early access. Oh, I've tried, though, we'll come to this a bit later, but I have tried their in-home streaming, which functioned quite successfully for me, given the restrictions that my own network placed upon it. But yeah, I mean, that'll probably be in beta for like 3 years. Maybe change a little bit. Probably not.
Have they
moving
fixed
on.
Greenlight yet, or is that still complete bollocks?
Is what, sorry? What?
Greenlight. Is that still
No,
shit?
Greenlight still exists, therefore it's still rubbish.
Right.
You can now watch the Steam Dev Days talks online, so you can see Gabe Newell saying it's broken and a bit rubbish, and then not doing anything about it, because it's been a month since he said that.
That's very akin to politicians, isn't it, really?
Yeah. I'm sorry, we know that energy prices are too high and the NHS doesn't really work. We'll probably do something. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't recall them saying that. They've admitted there's a problem. They've never said they're going to fix it.
It's like preview code.
In fairness, the NHS is a lot better than most other systems, like the one in America.
Yep.
Is it better than
exclusively revealed this is true?
Is it better than Valve though? Is the NHS better than Valve? This is today's debate.
Well,
Yes.
Valve's already fully privatised, which I'm obviously very suspicious about. The NHS isn't fully privatised yet, fortunately. So.
Yeah, that's the thing, you see. Valve are extraordinarily well funded. The NHS aren't. And yet both companies have some serious problems.
If the NHS sold
needs to
hats-
sell hats.
Yes, there we go. We've hit upon this at the same time.
Yeah, you get really boring clothes when you go into hospital unless you pay a bit more money.
Yeah, you might get the surgeon with the wacky Flintstones surgeon's cap, or
Yeah.
You get the Surgeon Simulator 2013 surgeon.
Well,
You pay a little extra.
Come to think of it, isn't paying for cosmetic enhancements something that the NHS does already?
Yeah. Well, that's the UK system. The cosmetic enhancements is going Bupa instead of NHS, I suppose. You pay a bit more. Kind of jump the queue. Might see someone who's has a bit more time to spend with you, or you might not. You know.
oh my god, where's this podcast gone?
Political news with the IncGamers Podcast. Dark Souls 2, there's actually been a bit of... I had a different Dark Souls 2 story, but I'm going to start with the more recent one, which is sort of news about the PC release date, which is that the Dark Souls 2 producer spoke to Digital Spy and said it probably won't be months afterwards. We're hoping it's only going to be weeks afterwards, which fills me with confidence.
Is this being published by Ubisoft? Because this sounds a hell of a lot like what they do.
Yes. Or maybe it's a Rockstar game secretly as well. They want everyone to pile in on the console versions because they want the kind of shared experience of Dark Souls. And then people are double dip on the PC.
If it was Rockstar, they wouldn't even have announced the PC.
Yeah, there would be no quote, and if there was a quote, it would miraculously suddenly disappear from the pages from which it was originally printed, as happened last week.
No, this is clearly it. They've been taking lessons from Ubisoft on this one, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit. I don't know. It's a bit concerning, really. The Japanese website for Dark Souls still says March in general for the PC version, but I kind of don't believe it now that the producer says, "Well, we're still kind of working on it," which is like a month away from release.
or this is kind of a Rockstar variation. In terms of they saw how well it's worked for Rockstar not announcing the PC version, so now they're just not going to give a release date until several weeks after the console version. Then they'll go, hey, it's out tomorrow! You've already bought the console version, but buy it again on PC.
Yeah, it's really quite annoying. The other news was that Dark Souls 2 is rated T for teen, which upset a few people because they thought, oh, it's going to just be full of kittens now or something.
Yeah, it's just going to be shit, isn't it? It's going to be full of rainbows and it'll be like Diablo 3.
Oh!
Yes. All of the unicorns and stuff. But I wrote an article about this where I put in tremendous amounts of effort comparing the ESRB rating for Dark Souls 1 with the ESRB rating and summary for Dark Souls 2. Found they were pretty similar, honestly, in terms of what they had to say about both games. I couldn't really separate them.
Does the ESRB rating mention horrific giant spiders with the torsos of topless ladies grafted to?
Sort of, yes. It mentions topless ladies, spider ladies whose hair is barely covering their chest or something like that, which it says for both games, of course, because of Quelaag in the first one. Because some people theorised that was why this one's only T for teen, because it doesn't have some tits in it, which obviously America is often quite upset about, but that's not the reason.
Developers have to stop putting spider breasts in.
Yeah. Stop putting fucking spiders in. Though come to think of it, doesn't Dark Souls have some of the biggest pair of tits in any game ever? And I'm not talking about that fucking
the princess lady.
Yeah. Or
amazing chest ahead.
Ornstein and Smorg or whatever the hell they're called.
Ornstein and Smo. Yeah, that lady.
Massive pair of tits as well.
It is quite the heaving bosom that awaits you beyond that boss fight, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so if you're worried about this rating, I'd recommend just reading the two ratings and some minor spoilers in there, obviously, but it reassured me that it's basically going to be the same game in tone, honestly. I mean, it's sort of it's a series that has horror and grotesque things in it, but it's not a horror game as such. I mean, I don't know, maybe it is.
I think there's an interesting discussion there. I think that you could make a case that Dark Souls is a survival game. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's fairly relevant. Everything we've seen about Dark Souls 2 thus far kind of indicates that it has the same tone. It has very much the same art style, the same sort of dismal locations, and that's not me complaining for once.
It's good dismal.
Yeah, it's kind of... It looks as though it's very much going along the same lines. I would be hard-pressed to look at everything that's come out of Dark Souls 2 and go, oh, well, they've made it all light and happy now.
Yeah.
The kids.
There's a guy who's made out of the gelatinous, still living bodies of other people in one of the trailers, which is pretty horrific. And you mentioned the spiders, of course.
It's got giant goddamn spider monster people with the spider legs sticking out through the mouth. And right, Peter, what I want you to do, because I think we've agreed that you're probably reviewing the PC version, I want you to make a note of every place they appear, just so that I know.
I'll almost certainly be playing the console version first if the PC one's going to take its goddamn time.
No, you won't.
I'm afraid I will.
It's illegal.
I won't be able to stop myself.
It's illegal. Don't want any of that shit rolling its way onto this website.
Sorry, but I mean, if the PC version's like a week afterwards, fair enough. But
self-control.
Yeah, I can kind of understand where you're coming from with that, Peter.
Well, it's a game where it's good to experience it from the beginning and stuff before people have figured everything out and stuff like that. So
had a chance to ruin it for you. And also, you wouldn't want to be playing the PC version against people who've already played the console version, and then they start invading you.
No, especially now you can be invaded like wherever and whenever, apparently. So yeah. Okay, Batman Arkham Origins is not going to get another patch because the developers are too busy making DLC. Apparently, that's as spotted on the forums for that game. People are asking, is there going to be a 1.06 patch? And the community manager basically went, no.
See, that's weird. That's weird because I misread that. I misread it the other way around, as in thinking, well, we're not going to do the DLC, we're going to do the patch, which I thought, that's sensible.
No.
Does it work yet?
Well, I think the fact that there's people on the forums asking for a bunch of fixes for certain things suggests. I mean, I think the way it was phrased was that we've patched out all the progress stopping bugs. So we're kind of satisfied with that. We're not going to bother with the other little things.
Tim's got his head in his hands.
That's untired.
No, it's because you're upset about the DLC.
I've got to give them credit for being upfront, because normally I'm critical of odious corporations hiding their intent. So it's quite nice for them to just be like, no, we just want to make some more money from DLC rather than mending the game. Thanks. Maybe Battlefield 4 and SimCity and stuff could have actually. No, SimCity did take this route. Never mind. Maybe
Battlefield 4 kind of took the opposite route, didn't it? They stopped doing DLC to do patches.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah. So fair play to them there. There was a German lawsuit attempting to suggest that it was against the law to prevent resale of games and resale of accounts on Steam. This is a group called VZVB. I'm not going to try and attempt their full German name. They're a consumer watchdog group who've tried before, actually, in the German courts to put a stop to this nefarious no resale of games on Steam practice. They failed in 2010, and now they've failed again, to the surprise possibly of no one. Are we sad about this? I'm not surprised. I don't know.
Not sad, not surprised. Don't really care, because it was never going to happen anyway. So it was all a big waste of time.
Sell your games? I've got some games I'd like to sell on Steam.
Yeah, I do too, but I just know it's not going to happen. So it's kind of. I mean, Tim, if you sold your games on Steam, you could retire now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
I could probably sell my Steam account and buy Luxembourg.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, it's getting more restrictive, because now you've got this kind of proto-region locking system in place where if you buy in a certain region, you may no longer be able to gift certain games to people in other regions and stuff like that. So, if anything, they're going the opposite direction, or rather giving publishers the option to go in opposite direction, because that's it's a publisher choice to restrict region selling. But of course, they take people up on that because they're dicks.
No argument here.
Yeah.
Publishers have a history of generally being arseholes.
Well, they still release games
from
on
a
different dates worldwide, which is idiotic in itself.
Yeah, particularly when it comes to things like... I don't understand staggered release dates on PC, because with
it's madness.
The ridiculous way that digital distribution has basically taken over PC gaming. Why can people in one country download it on this service and I can't do it for 3 days unless I use a proxy, in which case it works perfectly.
But don't do that, though, that would be illegal. I think the answer is retailers, isn't it, basically? Because the retail model is still stuck in an era where the big releases are on a day in the UK and a day in the US.
Retailers don't give a fuck about the PC.
No, they don't.
True, except for football
this doesn't happen on most of the big releases, because the big releases come out globally, worldwide.
That's a good point. And frankly, how much power do the retailers have left, especially in the UK? Honestly, aren't we at the stage where we could probably just go, oh, retailers, you want us to do this? Well, we're not going to. What are you going to do about it?
In fairness, though, I suppose that might actually just kill what's left of the retailers in the UK.
Yeah, well,
as if Tesco hasn't done that already.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, but you won't find a PC game in Tesco or Sainsbury's or anywhere else. In fact, you won't find a PC game anywhere.
Only on digital distribution, pretty much, is the place to be for those.
And online game selling websites, by which I mean the websites for places like Game and Play.com and stuff, which is really weird.
Mm.
They've just got a big warehouse in, I don't know, the Isle of Wight or something.
No, I just still find it. I still find it kind of weird that the chief competition for instant access to games is a mail order service that takes several days to ship them to you. How does that? How is it that shops are so far behind the fucking mail order? It's not like the prices are very different.
Because you have to go to a shop, and then they probably won't have it anyway. And then you go, oh, why don't I just go online for this? I find this with so many things, right? Like clothes shopping. The other weekend, right, we needed to buy some more curtains. We tried to buy some freaking curtains. Nowhere had any curtains for our specifications. And it's like, well, if you're going to try and compete with online, you know, we've tried to help local businesses, and you just don't have anything to meet our needs. And it's the same with games, everyone.
I'm not sure whether I should be taking pot shots at you for deviating this podcast into discussion about curtain shopping, or if I should actually just be applauding that utterly ludicrous digression.
This is just about to turn into a DIY show, isn't it? So what did you use to put the curtains up? What size roll plug did you use?
In genuine question, right, Peter? What were these exact specifications you were looking for? They don't match, because I'm a newbie to the world of curtain shopping.
I'm glad you asked, Tim. Well, okay, so in our main living room, we've got a sort of French window type setup that's got like 3 windows, so it's quite wide, okay?
Right.
So you need curtains with quite a lot of width to them, and that's the main problem.
Yeah, because you have to join the curtains.
Well, yes, actually, that was our solution eventually. So that was the first thing, and also they kind of have a pleated top, and they attach with hooks rather than grommets and a curtain rail, and apparently that style is kind of out of fashion, so that makes it even more difficult to get the type of curtains that we're looking for.
Funny you should mention curtains, actually, because over the weekend I actually spent my time putting up a swish curtain rail in the room downstairs. I moved the curtains from the front room to the back room. Now, the curtains in the front room were actually too long for the ones in the back room, so we had to raise the curtain rail by 6.5 centimetres to make them the right length, so we wouldn't have to take the hems up.
It was a very curtain-oriented weekend for the IncGamers staff.
Yeah, but not only that, this swish curtain rail advertised itself as a heavy-duty curtain rail. But actually, the curtains were too big and heavy that the swish curtain rail didn't function properly with the pulley device. So I wasn't happy at all. I actually spent my whole weekend screaming at curtain rails and and you know the hook system. Just while we're on the hook system, actually,
sure.
I can understand why they've gone out of fashion, because it's the most ridiculous. If you've got lining and you haven't sewn the lining into the back of your curtains, and you have to attach the lining with hooks to the back of said original curtain, it is an absolute nightmare. And we've actually discussed this weekend. I'm going to redesign the way curtains are hung. There you go.
I am so happy. It's taken me 150 episodes, but I finally destroyed the podcast.
Right, that's
Tim,
it.
Well, I want to know if Tim did anything with curtains, just because both of us did this weekend, and that's kind of a coincidence.
Oh, just to let you know, my curtains are still not up.
No, neither are ours, because my wife now has to join some together with her amazing sewing prowess, so that we've got curtains that are wide enough to go across the windows.
I don't think I did anything with curtains this weekend. There is something slightly unorthodox I can talk about this weekend, but we'll have to wait until we get to the what we've been playing section before we...
Just actually, what material are your curtains made of there, Tim?
Some sort of cloth. I guess.
Is it velvet?
Is it cotton?
Maybe.
How do they attach? Is it the curtain rail thing, or is it?
No, these are hooks.
I see. Yeah.
I know this, right? Because one of the things, part of the curtains at the very end, it's kind of a. I can't think of how to describe it, but it kind of goes across, and the problem with that is the screw on it isn't tightened very well, so it keeps falling down.
Yeah.
And then so I have to keep putting it back up and then putting the hook back. So yeah, I've got experience with some curtains.
You need to remove the rail. You need to remove the rail, Tim, and then actually screw the screw in tighter. It'll stop coming off.
Actually, I've got a really good segue from this. Do you know what's even more ridiculous than us talking about curtains?
What is more? Go on. What is it?
The voice acting in the latest Thief trailer.
I figured out who it was that it reminded me of. He reminds me of General Martok from Deep Space Nine, except really hamming it up. It totally reminds me, because I went to YouTube and watched a couple of clips. It's like, fucking hell, it's General Martok.
Which one's General Martok?
He was the Klingon guy who with the eye patch, who shows up in Deep Space Nine around season, I don't know, 5 or so, maybe.
Yeah.
Hangs out with Worf. Sorry, that's my phone. Anyway.
I thought it was your cat.
My cat makes that noise too. But yeah, so the voice acting was bad. Is the voice takeaway message
the voice
from
acting is atrocious. It is just so... I think I said to you, I can see what he's going for, but it sounds so forced, and you put it right with the word pantomime, I think.
Yeah, it's very like...
Was he not going for General Martok then? Was that not his intention?
Maybe he is. Maybe it is General Martok. I mean, we looked on IMDb to see who the actor was, but it's not listed yet, so maybe it's him. I might come around to the whole voice acting if it turns out to actually be him.
Yeah, that could work. Although, do we think that Square Enix have now actually just given up on making this a good game, so they're just trying to make it as unintentionally funny as possible?
Maybe.
Just seen a cat's arse walk in front of the camera.
Yes, my cat is here. Thank you, Samson, for that. The other thing I had on this list was like financial news, which is quite boring. It's not as good as curtain chats, I don't think.
I would concur that is slightly more boring than curtain chat. Yes.
Yeah. I can do a quick summary though. Activision made lots of money. Ubisoft lost some money. Sega made most of their money selling PC games, apparently. So there we go. It's financial news. I want to go on to games we've played this week because I'm excited. I've been waiting a while, and I want to hear about Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, come on, Tim.
It's the one thing I didn't want to talk about. I'm just so unbelievably bored with the Elder Scrolls Online.
And that's the Elder Scrolls Online review. No.
Pretty much.
Let's tease it out. Why is it so boring? Why is it so tedious?
Because it is. Peter, you don't play MMOs, right? I know this.
Not really, no.
I've tried discussing MMOs with you before, and you just put on a hat and start juggling. With most MMOs, there comes a point where you get quite bored and the game feels like a bit of a grind. Usually happens after around about 15 to 20 hours. And you if you fight your way through that, it'll probably start getting quite entertaining again a bit later on. With this, that happened after about 20 minutes. I don't know. It's just very dull. There is the quests for the most part aren't particularly interesting. They're not bad, but they're not overly interesting. The combat is very clicky. You click the left mouse button to attack and the right mouse button to block. And yeah, it works, I suppose. It's just not very interesting or engaging. For the majority of fights, you can basically use one ability and then click the left mouse button a few times and you win, and then your health automatically goes back up to full once you've been out of combat for 5 seconds. And then you'll have the occasional fight, which is really difficult, and you'll actually have to block a few times, and you might have to pay attention, but those are quite rare.
Can I do some devil's advocating? Because
yeah.
Even though I don't really play MMOs, I do know that they take quite a while to get going before they kind of open up and blossom into beautiful MMO flowers. Do you think that the fact that you've played, I don't know like how long you've played this for, but is it a symptom of that kind of
I would counterbalance that by saying that usually the start bit of MMOs is one of the best bits. Well, it takes them a while until they kind of open up and blossom like a beautiful rose. The start bit is usually so fast moving and continually giving you new stuff to play with that it's very difficult to get bored. This not so much. Yeah, there is a possibility there. There are some ideas that it has which might make a bit more sense later on. Hello, cat.
He's been there the whole time.
I know. It's just that he just kind of popped up directly in front of the camera and blocked our view of you.
Yes.
Yeah, if anyone's watching this and they missed the cat actually appearing in the front of the screen there, Peter wasn't beating himself off, he was actually stroking the cat. So if you couldn't see the cat...
No, I was beating myself off. And my cat likes to watch that sort of thing.
I was just thinking, I thought it was like, Elder Scrolls,
MMOs. Starting areas and starting quests. Oh my. The quests.
Yeah, it has some stuff that could conceivably work better in the later stages. The way character building works, that is fairly freeform. I'm not sure whether it's possible to completely gimp yourself into an utterly useless build, but you can kind of go in different directions, which is kind of interesting. It'll be I'm fascinated to see how long it'll be before someone works out the absolute best build for each and every class. But yeah, for the most part, it just feels like a generic MMO with combat that is slightly more boring than usual.
So
it doesn't really do anything new or clever, or at least it hasn't so far. And I played up to about level 13 or 14 or so, I think.
So I've played a lot less. I've played way less.
We weren't allowed to talk about the game past, I think, about level 15 anyway, so it didn't really seem to make much point going much further.
I mean, I've played way less than you, Tim, and I think after about 20 minutes, which is what you said, it just felt really dull. And
yeah.
I'm not, I've played a few Elder Scrolls games, but probably not as many as, like, for as long as you guys. Like, I played Oblivion quite a lot and stuff like that, and even the earlier Elder Scrolls. But it just felt nothing. I felt the world was just nothing to me. I know that the names of all the places and everything, I mean, everything to all the Elder Scrolls fans and all that. But having played something like Rift, which I played right up to max character level, I didn't have that issue where after about 20 minutes I was bored. The actual story kept me going through the early levels, which is usually the really mundane part where you're having to kill all the really crap mobs and all that kind of stuff. But the story in that and the pace of the gameplay really kept me wanting to play it. With this, I just wanted to shoot my brains out after 20 minutes, and I just could not be bothered. I just really couldn't be bothered with it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't really say more than that. There's nothing, or there's very little that's fundamentally wrong with it. It just feels so incredibly generic. And quite brown in a lot of areas as well, which is slightly bizarre, particularly if you consider that Skyrim has some utterly gorgeous vistas and views and so on, and this just kind of looks meh.
So
it looks nice. There are occasional nice bits and pieces. There are some really nice, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, there are some really nice bloom effects.
Oh wow.
Geez.
Which do actually kind of make the terrain look a bit better. But yeah, for the most part, it just feels like a bit of a chore, honestly.
So based on what they're charging for it, Tim, really do Bethesda really stand a chance with this? Because it's not had all this week, all I've read is negative press, really. I mean, in general, about 95% of it has been negative, and a lot of people are kind of got on the beta this weekend for the first time. Sort of, and everyone's impression was just a bit of blah. And it's not the cheapest MMO, let's put it that way.
No, I mean, you've got to buy the game, and then you've got a monthly fee, and then I think there's microtransactions on top of that. Yeah, I don't know. As it stands, I probably wouldn't play this if it was free to play. That said, you have said a lot about the negative impressions. I will say, reading a couple of the forums and a couple of other threads that popped up about it, there were a few long-term beta people who've basically been saying that the game it starts off really badly and then it gets good around about sort of level 20, which is quite an investment.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If they're right, then maybe it'll all be worthwhile. Maybe that's the point when all the systems will click and everything will kind of mesh and work as it should. Or alternatively, maybe they're wrong.
So do you not think it's a bit weird then how the press have been told that they can't go above X level, and all
No, not really. I mean that's reasonably standard with a lot of this stuff, particularly if they're trying to keep reveals of certain areas, certain mechanics, anything like that under wraps.
Well, I tell you what, if my game was getting the slating that this has been getting this week, I would certainly be contacting press and saying, hey, go for it, just do what the hell you want and enjoy it, and try and at least salvage some positivity from it if there is any to be had after X levels.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. It's just.
Oh, Tim, you look so soul destroyed.
I'm just quite tired more than anything. Although I will say, when kind of the beta, or at least the bit that I was in for, when that expired, I actually felt a mild sense of relief. Just thought, oh, okay, I don't need to play that anymore. Excellent. Which isn't really a good sign. I'll be honest with you.
I've read a few bits and pieces this week of people basically just saying, playing it for a couple of hours, then going, why am I playing this? I could be doing something better.
In fairness to a couple of bits of it, it's one of the most stable betas I've taken part in. I didn't really have any bugs or glitches for the most part. The client is incredibly stable, works really well. It seems to be really well optimized. The actual code base behind it appears solid, which is absolutely a new thing for a game with Elder Scrolls in the title. I don't know. It's just the actual game itself. I'm finding it impossible to care about it. I mean, I don't think any of us have ever been particularly excited about the Elder Scrolls Online to begin with, really. So we are maybe not the right people for this, unless it was mind-blowingly amazing.
But it's not that, Tim. There's a point where a game actually gets you engaged, and with an MMO, I think most people give up by about level 10. So if you cannot engage a gamer by level 10, especially people who have played MMOs, and I've played a lot of MMOs for a lot of hours, then go on, Tim.
That's kind of where you hit on the interesting point, though, don't you? Because this has very clearly been designed for consoles. This is going to be a PS4 and Xbox One, and that name's still confused.
So as far as
it's going to be a game for those systems for people who haven't really played MMOs before, with the exception perhaps of Final Fantasy XIV.
So my advice to anyone then is basically, as a PC gamer who's played MMOs, don't touch this with a fucking barge pole. Seriously.
That kind of that seems a little bit harsh, but reasonably accurate, I suppose.
Yep, and I hope that quote goes on the box.
Again, I find it very difficult to say it's bad. I'm just finding it incredibly difficult to find a reason to actually play it.
Yeah.
I
would say that does mean it's bad. I mean, even though it's competently made, if you just don't want to go back to it,
I suppose.
I suppose.
You said a minute ago it's well optimized, it's well shaped or whatever.
Yeah, which is great. But
ultimately, you can have a turd that is well optimized and it can come out in a perfect shape, but ultimately it's still a turd.
I wouldn't say it's bad. I just wouldn't say it's good. It's just very generic.
Yep.
It doesn't do anything spectacularly, but on the other hand, it certainly doesn't do anything badly.
Yeah, MMOs have this problem though, where that if you try and do something that is out of the ordinary. I'm specifically with combat, for example, where there's no auto-targeting and you have to aim. I'm thinking of games like Terra and so on. That immediately turns off a portion of players who are used to playing MMOs the way they're used to playing them, as in, dare I say it, the WoW model or whatever. And then, so you're kind of damned if you do something new, and you're damned if you don't.
I can respect that, which is why I think they've gone so heavily for the console market, because that's the thing. This uses mouse look and WASD to walk around, which is nothing new for MMOs, but mouse look is reasonably new. You've kind of got a crosshair in the centre of the screen. you've got a maximum of sort of 6 abilities equipped at any given time, plus 1 quick slot item. And you access the rest of your quick slots by holding down the button and using a radial wheel. You know, it is very clearly designed for consoles, and I suspect that that's the thing. On consoles, you don't have World of Warcraft. You don't have the ridiculous amount of choice or in competition in terms of both free-to-play games and proper full-paid MMOs. That's probably where they're going to make their money, and there is a part of me that would be genuinely surprised if it doesn't do really well on those systems.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you there, Tim, but I will say, as someone who plays PC games almost exclusively, that the fact that when someone says to me it's been optimised and designed for a console, I would immediately not touch it. Immediately.
Yeah, I don't think that I wouldn't say the PC version is an afterthought, but it's very definitely designed in terms of gameplay mechanics for console.
I actually thought stuff like the character models and the details and that actually looked pretty shit. Compared to what it could be like if it was designed for a PC. I didn't think it was particularly great.
Yes and no. I mean, that's kind of the problem with MMOs, is that you want as many people playing as possible, so you kind of want the game to be as playable on lower systems as you can. I'm
kind of getting sick of seeing stretchy robes that just stretch. They don't flow. They just kind of go.
It does have a posterior slider on the character creator, though, so
yes,
credit for that, I suppose.
Yeah, the character creation is fairly phenomenal. I will give it that. I didn't try creating a hideous freak, actually, which is normally the first thing I do.
No, should have done that.
I was disappointed that you didn't, Tim. Not like our Dragon's Prophet characters, which were absolutely immense.
The characters were incredible.
All right, well,
do you know?
Oh, go on.
Sorry, no, carry on.
Well, I was just going to say you've done a kind of initial preview of this and a little video as well showing off one of the quests, and I think you're going to do a follow-up article as well with I don't know, PvP maybe, something like that.
Not allowed to talk about that yet, though.
Definitely not going to do another article with PvP impressions.
I think I'm allowed to say that I'm allowed to say that we've got a follow-up article coming this week, but I don't think I'm allowed to give any specifics about my opinions or what's in said article.
That's weird, though, because I've seen people on forums talking about the PvP all week.
Well, considering that this weekend was, I think, a PvP stress test, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. They've been kind of going through the phases of denial, actually. Like, people to begin with started going, oh no, it gets really good after like 20 hours, which obviously really enthuses me to play it. And then the new one is, oh, but no, the PvP is really good. And then when that turns out to not be that great, I'm not sure what the next thing will be. But
the next thing will be the end game is really good.
Oh, the end, yes, of course, the end game is magnificent. But you've got to play for 80 hours to get there.
That will then be followed up with... they'll add more content soon, don't worry. And that will be followed up with definitely the most stable MMO launch ever. And then people will finally give up.
And then, but then you forgot the last stage, which is like sort of 8 months down the line going...
Free to play.
It goes free to play.
Yep. Do we think this is going... I think this is pretty nailed on to go free to play.
Not if the console market, as Tim says, really picks up on it. It won't.
Yeah, that's kind of the one thing.
I guess the question is whether they will, because this is as you say, there aren't many on console. Will they embrace the MMO genre model?
From what I understand, this will be one of the only 6 games available on the PS4 and Xbox One before 2015. So
that's a good point. Yes.
Next gen.
Do you have the edge there?
On a more interesting topic, I did mention that I did something slightly interesting this weekend.
Yes.
In terms of games I'm playing, I had a quick crack at Democracy 3 because that was on sale on Steam. And that basically let me take over the UK. Do you want to guess at what happened?
God.
Anarchy and revolution and firing squads, terror, death squads in the streets by about a month in.
No, I managed to get a 98% approval rating, completely wiped out tobacco use, alcohol abuse, poverty, homelessness, crime. We had one of the greenest, smartest, most technologically advanced countries in the world. I basically crafted some sort of glowing utopia. Oh, and I completely abolished religion, which was a fairly good trick.
Yes.
So in short, if you want to vote me for Global Overlord, there is precedent that I can do the job.
That all sounded pretty good. That was quite tempting, that stuff. But did you do it with death camps, is my question.
No, I didn't bring back the death penalty. For my next trick, I think what I'm going to do is try to turn the UK into a kind of theocratic terror nation with a massive army, full police presence. And then I think I'm going to try running America with the explicit goal of banning guns.
Yes.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
If you succeed in that, then the game is not actually realistic, because unfortunately that's impossible.
I'm fairly certain that most of what I did with the UK was actually impossible. Not necessarily because it would work, but because it would never actually be ratified by the various houses, and I'd probably be hounded out of office quite quickly for even trying it.
I think
I legalised prostitution as well.
Fully banning religion might be a bit controversial, I don't know.
Ban religion? I just banned people from teaching creationism in schools, and then massively ramped up kind of the emphasis on science and technology, and for some reason everybody stopped believing in it once they were studying logic instead.
It's just a coincidence. We've just lost all our religious listeners.
No, in fairness, I was
and
getting...
all our gun owners.
I was getting death threats from religious groups. However, as most religious groups had a membership of about 30, I strongly suspect that my intelligence agency is comprised of about 25 to 26 of those members, so I don't think I was in any real trouble.
That was probably them sending you the messages just to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, quite possibly. Just to make sure that I'm funding them.
Yeah, look, these guys are still dangerous. You should give us money.
Yeah, it was quite enjoyable. I'm slightly freaked out with how easy it was. I was going to legalise drugs, and then I thought, what's the point?
Everyone's already really chill and happy, so... Yeah.
Exactly. All that was going to do was likely raise crime. I basically just thought, you know what, we'll just legalise prostitution instead to make the religious even more pissed off with me. And sorted.
Good. Alright. Vote McDonald for 2016 is the message.
I will, as in the game, create a fanatical cult of personality. But it will totally be worth it. I will lead you into a shining golden age.
Hooray.
And I'll legalise prostitution just to see what happens.
Well, you know, why not? I played multiple games over Valve's and Steam's in-home streaming thing to see how that worked on my not particularly perfect wireless home network.
How did it work?
Reasonably well, if you want to play...
What have you been doing this weekend?
Hey, come on, man. I want it. That is pretty much the summary there.
It's mostly, we had a fairly long conversation about your curtain adventures this weekend, so I figured you didn't really have much time to do anything else.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I was doing this midweek before the curtain incident occurred.
Carry on.
Yeah, turn-based stuff, strategic stuff, all works fine. Anything where you need some kind of Twitch reaction didn't work so great for me, but given that all the sort of beta FAQs basically go, man, you should have a wired network for this for it to work well. And given that my wireless between desktop and router isn't particularly great, I was actually quite impressed that I could get at least half the things I tried running and up in like 30 frames per second, which isn't amazing, but for something like, I don't know, XCOM or Crusader Kings or something is perfectly reasonable and playable. So it's a nice extra option for where I can play certain games, but not stuff like Bioshock Infinite or Sleeping Dogs, really.
When you say it doesn't work too well for kind of Twitch games, are you talking solely about things like first-person shooters and so on? I mean, how about bits and pieces like, I don't know, something like Legend of Grimrock, where you don't need instant lightning-fast reactions, but you do kind of need to act in a hurry?
I think that would be okay. I mean, well, Sleeping Dogs was kind of on the cusp of being okay. To give you an idea, I guess, of sort of reaction times, the combat was not ideal. It was a little bit stuttery occasionally, just because the wireless was kind of going in and out. Yeah, I think as long as you have a reasonable window of time to act in, then those games would be okay as well. I mean, obviously you have to put up with stuff in lower frame rates and lower resolutions and stuff, or at least I do. Other people are able to stream in 60 FPS and 1080p and stuff. But yeah, so given that I had basically zero expectations, I was pleasantly surprised. And I think if they keep improving on this with the beta iterations, as I said earlier, over the course of the next 20 years or however long it takes Valve to get around to releasing this, it'll probably be quite good, because it's already quite good. I was impressed. So you can basically, if you join the streaming group, they pretty much give you a beta invite within a few days or the day or so. So if you're interested, give it a go. It's extraordinarily easy to set up as well, which I was quite pleased about. I just logged into both places with my Steam account, and a whole bunch of games that were on the host desktop popped up with a big stream button on them, and then I said, "Oh, I'll try that then."
I am genuinely tempted to give this a whirl, if only because I've got a reasonably good home network, and I've got an astonishingly shit netbook that can barely run Super Meat Boy, let alone anything else at all.
That's ideal.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get Quake 3 running on there, or possibly Sleeping Dogs, or Far Cry 3. We'll see how that goes. I might have to give this a whirl at some point.
Yep. Do so. It's kind of magical. Thinking, oh, how am I playing this game here when it's been launched over there? This is amazing.
Whereas I could go over there and just play it.
The sad thing about this, while this would kind of let me, if it works, probably play games on sort of the netbook in the living room, what I would more likely do is use it so that I can play games on the netbook on the bed that is 2 feet to my left, so that I can face the TV at the same time, and I can put on a box set of something.
That's still useful though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It just feels like a bit of a waste, considering that the distance the signal has to travel is kind of from here to a room over there, and then all the way back to here.
Yeah. That'll be a good test, actually, see if it can cope with that.
Yeah.
So yes, I've written about that as well at some reasonable length, although you've kind of heard the highlights there already. But read it anyway, it'll be really interesting for you. I also wrote about the Dark Souls 2 teen rating thing, and I did a bit more Mantle AMD testing with Battlefield 4, which people keep telling me Mantle isn't compatible with my card in Battlefield 4, even though AMD have specifically said yes it is. So to those people, stop spreading those rumours. It's not true, unless AMD are lying, which I suppose might be possible, but there we go. We've also got all of Tim's Elder Scrolls stuff. We have a Banished video from Mr. Paul Younger, who claims that he didn't kill everyone in the Banished video.
Yeah, I've got something to... Yeah, right. To anyone on YouTube, right, who says...
Oh, you've got comment issues as well.
Yeah, anyone on YouTube who says, "You're not playing the game properly." Well, hello? An hour, nobody died, nobody froze to death, nobody starved. It's a city builder. There is no proper way to play the game. It's a sandbox. You can kind of do what you want. Understand.
Clearly, Paul, you're not meant to have your people live for longer than 20 minutes.
I know.
You're just playing it wrong. Well, what you're meant to do is have everyone die and then start again. That's just how it works, Paul.
I know, but I kind of thought, well, let's put an hour-long video together, and if nobody dies in it, and my population is growing, then everyone will be really happy because they'll learn how to play the game properly when it comes out. Oh no, not on YouTube.
Obviously making huge mistakes. There's also Sniper Elite 3 preview and Wolf Among Us Episode 2 review. And I think that's everything from last week and up to now, pretty much.
Just before you go on, Peter, just because I know you're going to ask me, what did you play this week? I'll just say nothing. So that'll save you.
I thought we covered that with Elder Scrolls. Sorry.
No. Actually, I did a wee bit of Elder Scrolls, but not like Tim. Tim's been the one who's been stuck into that. But I've been playing Banished, actually, more Banished, and I'm just about to embark on EverQuest Landmark, which has just dropped in yesterday. After trying to find my Sony Station account, which was fun in itself. But that'll be coming up. There'll be another Banished video as well, which will be due. There'll hopefully be something on Planetary Annihilation, King's Road, and EverQuest Landmark, and that's probably about it for me for now.
Blimey.
Peter?
Yes?
I've just discovered the guy who played General Martok actually does some voice acting for games.
Oh no!
Holy shit, it is, isn't it? It's him.
He doesn't do a lot of voice acting for games, but he was apparently in BioShock, BioShock 2, Dead Space, and Injustice: Gods Among Us. So you never know.
Oh, I'm excited now. Please be General Martok in Thief.
Speaking of DC stuff, Tim, are you going to be having a look at the MOBA, what's it called, Infinite Crisis at some point?
Yeah.
I was planning on, yeah.
Yeah, the nice lovely PR company called me this afternoon, actually, saying there was a press event, and when I said no, we don't really do press events because we're kind of playing it anyway and it's pointless. They said, yeah, but there's interviews there. And when I said, yeah, but to travel halfway across the country for an interview just seems a bit pointless, you kind of went,
In my case, it'd be on the boat and a flight, or a flight.
Yes, well, she kind of admitted, going, yes, good point. So which I think that was a quote. It was good point. So there will be stuff coming up on Infinite Crisis at some point.
It's nice to do interviews in person, but I mean, you don't lose a whole lot doing them over Skype. Honestly, it's not really that. You know.
Do you know what I've had?
To play devil's advocate, I can kind of understand that if they're kind of taking time away from work to essentially do interviews with the press, it's probably easier for them to get them all done at once in a strictly controlled environment where they can say, right, you've got 10 minutes, then these guys are doing it.
But that's the problem.
In a Skype conversation.
That's good for them, but it's not good for us.
Yeah, that's the problem, Tim. You think about the interviews that we did for SimCity and even Banished and Grim Dawn, where we've spent over an hour with the devs. And we've got some actually really interesting answers out of them. We've got, understood a bit more about the company and so on. You can't do that at a press event. It's just pointless. But the interviews that do really well, the ones where you can actually spend time, because they're actually interesting people to talk to. But you need time to do that.
The in-depth interviews are the best. Well, I mean, the Card Hunter one. I mean, that was several interviews we did with those guys, and several hours, and it was all really interesting. There was some really in-depth stuff about game design and iterating. Even if the game has absolutely no appeal to you, those were fascinating.
Basically,
I quite agree.
Basically, all three of us have been round the block a little bit, and if we find an interview interesting, then it's probably going to be really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. That's about it, I think. Is it? I hope.
No, it's not.
Sometimes I forget things.
It's not, Peter.
Okay.
Because there's Facebook and there's also Twitter.
Oh, there is.
Oh, actually, before I go, I will just say something about some site stuff that I've been working on. Obviously, we've put up the trending stuff on the right, which basically points you in the direction of the stuff that people are interested in talking about. So do use those links. But also, we're going to be changing the whole site login system over very shortly. It's almost complete, where you'll basically be able to take a registered account, but you'll also, if you just can't be arsed, which is naughty, because you should be arsed, because then you won't get access to all the good stuff. You can also sign in with Steam, Twitter, Google, Facebook, and all that stuff. So we are totally changing it. And to Rich, he was asking about, please can you make my comments editable because I can't type. I'm with you there, mate. I can't type either. And the comments will also be editable shortly too.
I'm with you there as well. I've had to edit some of the things Paul's written before. Yes, it's not fun.
It is fun because it's like cracking the Enigma code.
It's this very stream of consciousness. It's like the way David Bowie writes songs. maybe something like that. Yeah. And on that note, we'll be back next week with another pod. Goodbye.
Bye.